Welcome back. So, we're talking about the 6 dimensions of the bardo. Which one were we going to talk about now?
The brute dimension.
The brute dimension. Oh, yes, the dimension of the animals. The animal dimension, we tend to romanticize the animal dimension because of our pets and the joy and peace that they bring to us. And it's truly wonderful. The love that they give us is incredible. But the animal dimension is a dimension that is dominated by instinct. And we are really close. We're actually sandwiched between the animals and the angels. The animal dimension, as wonderful as it is a pure dimension of fight or flight. And always the feeling of, am I going to get eaten? Is something going to eat me? And always a need to eat. So the survival mechanism runs the entire animal dimension. And that serves a completely logical function, but as far as evolving in higher dimensional space, it is very hard to get out of that. An animal, once you're in it, if you enter the bardo as an animal, you're very likely to just be running from anything that threatens you. And everything in the bardo is threatening. You are face to face with eternity. There's not one thing moving, there are worlds moving all around us. So for the animal, they will bounce in and out of the macro dimensions or the bardo very fast and right back into another animal body. That's partially why animals' lives are so short. That's partially why their time reference, like for a dog, 9 years to ours? 1 year to a dog is 9 of our years.
I think maybe 7.
Yeah, so that reference point is an example of how they're living in a completely different sped up reality, and part of that sped up reality is the fight or flight. Now for us, fight or flight has kept us alive, but there are certain times where fight or flight will really not help us. A lot of times in relationship or in social situations, fight or flight will cause it to explode and not move it towards resolution. And also in higher dimensional spaces, fight or flight does not benefit us. A higher dimensional response is presence and open interest, not a sense that everything is going to destroy us.
And I remember that reacting to anything you experience in the macro dimension will eject you into the lower realms, and that's what fight or flight is. Instinctual reaction.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, in the macro dimensional space, one reaction is the primary element of the animal dimension, is that fear element. As a matter of fact, that is the emotional, in the way that the hell dimensions are anger and the ghost dimensions are greed. The animal dimension, the emotion that pervades it is fear. Fear is the main thing that runs that whole dimensional space. So each one of these dimensions are essentially extensions and crystallization of emotional states. The human dimension is considered so valuable in the Buddhist tradition because we are a mix of the other 5 dimensions. The other 5 dimensions are extremes. And once you're in them, it's very hard to find a middle ground to get out of that extreme. And so you could be in it for a long, long time. You could see how being in the animal realm and dying and moving into the light, moving into a space with larger than life figures and roaring, crashing light, as an animal, you're not going to stay there very long. And the body you have, the body of habits, is going to be the dog or cat or squirrel that you just were. And you're in this apocalyptic infinite space with no context. Now, if someone is reading from the Book of the Dead, so you've got a labyrinth reader, and you've got karma with them, or you have karma to wake up in that chamber to become a little more present, that reader could provide an anchor point for numerous beings that are passing through the labyrinth, because ultimately there is no voyager that is a squirrel or is a human or is a god. You are temporarily these things, and then you become something else. So the voyager has what the body of habits has, what it thinks is its body. So it has the body that it just had, even though it's like a holographic memory. Each day in the light, that body becomes more tenuous, and the animal is probably going to bounce in and out of it very quick and be in an animal body again, unless a reader makes contact or unless their karma runs out. Their inertia trajectory, if you think about a trajectory of energy moving a certain with force, that changes at a point, and as its inertia changes, that's when we can have a resonance for another dimensional space. Theoretically. Everything's theoretical. The most important thing is how they apply now, not being run by our animal instincts now. There was a time when our animal instincts kept us alive for thousands of years. But then there's this point where we have not completely risen above our animal instincts, and we still are throwing rocks at each other.
Yes, that's very true.
And that's a problem, because it's the animal instincts that are causing us to react like scared animals. And we have the potential to respond and not react. The response is a present reaction.
A reaction is blind and instinctual, and if you look out the window now with the current sense of panic, that can lead to a lot of instinctual reaction.
Yeah, it definitely leads to explosions, it cascades. And right now, the social situation and all the unrest is a perfect example of these dimensions crisscrossing each other, and how what was a month ago or a week ago a completely normal space is now transformed into a space of either high stress or completely altered, or a lot of conflict, or been burned down. There's so many different configurations of how quick our world can change, or where the world of one of these dimensions comes into the human world, and suddenly we look like we're in a hell realm and everything is burning. So there's these dimensions, even whether they exist as actual spaces is not so relevant as how it impacts us now, and how we relate to these phenomena now, and how present we're able to stay and see the nature of these things, and the potential that how we respond opens up worlds. And those worlds then we and others have to live through and in. So the most important thing is to stay in your heart and stay present and see the nature of everything and ask questions. Question everything. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like us and subscribe. Hit the bell icon to be notified for when we post new videos. We really would encourage you to ask any questions that you have. We would love to answer them and address them in any way possible. And we will talk to you soon. And remember, stay focused on the question.